At a quiet family dinner in a small Midwestern town, my adult son decided to humiliate me in front of everyone. With no warning and no hesitation, he looked straight at me and said that I was a loser and that his mother's new husband was a real man. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't defend myself. I stayed silent, and that silence would end up changing everything. My name is Victor. I was in my early 60s at the time, tired in the way only men who've worked their entire lives tend to be. Across the table sat my son, Ethan, 30 years old, fully grown, yet still living a life I had quietly funded for years. My daughter, Clara, sat beside me, already sensing that something was about to go wrong. We had been talking about ordinary things, work, weather, small, forgettable moments. Then Ethan slammed his fork down and said it. Loud, sharp, cruel, he compared me to my ex-wife's new husband, a wealthy businessman named Marcus, and announced that Marcus was the real success, the real father figure, the kind of man worth respecting. The words landed hard, but I didn't react. Clara did. She called him out immediately, reminded him who had raised us, who had paid the bills, who had shown up every time it mattered. Ethan laughed her off. He said I was old, average, obsolete. He said Marcus knew how to win. Ethan stood up, grabbed his jacket, and walked out. Clara followed, apologizing with her eyes before the door shut. I stayed seated, staring at half-finished plates and a table full of proof that I had built a life for people who no longer valued it. That night, alone in my backyard, I replayed every sacrifice I had ever made. I remembered the car I bought Ethan when he had nothing, the house I put in my own name when his credit failed, the rent, the repairs, the insurance, the endless support while he chased ideas that never turned into results. I remembered how often Marcus's name came up, always attached to promises and image, never to real effort. By sunrise, I had made a decision. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to beg for respect. I was going to stop enabling disrespect. Early the next morning, I drove to Ethan's house, the one I owned. His car sat in the driveway, the same car registered in my name and paid for entirely by me. When he answered the door, half asleep and irritated, I told him calmly that I was there for the keys. He laughed at first. Then he got angry. Then he realized I wasn't bluffing. I showed him the registration. I reminded him who paid every bill. I told him that keeping something that doesn't belong to you isn't independence, it's entitlement. When he finally handed me the keys, his hands were shaking. He insulted me again, called me bitter, repeated Marcus's words as if they were his own. I didn't respond. I got into the car and drove away. I didn't feel guilty. I felt clear. That drive wasn't about punishment. It was about reality. And it was only the first step. After taking the car, I didn't slow down. I went straight to the bank. The house Ethan was living in wasn't a gift. It was never in his name. Every payment, every repair, every tax bill had come from my account. I stopped the automatic transfers that morning. While the teller processed the paperwork, my phone started vibrating. Ethan was already panicking. I didn't answer. Some lessons only land when silence replaces safety. By the time I stepped back outside, the situation had shifted. Ethan wasn't just angry anymore, he was afraid. He called me repeatedly, accusing me of ruining his life, saying I was throwing him out over one comment. I corrected him calmly. It wasn't one comment. It was years of disrespect, entitlement and comparison. That's when my ex-wife called. Her voice was frantic. She demanded to know what I thought I was doing. She said Ethan was devastated. She said Marcus was furious. She warned me about lawyers, consequences, and regret. I listened. Then I told her the truth. Everything was in my name: the house, the car, the accounts. I had supported Ethan far longer than any court would ever expect. This wasn't cruelty. This was accountability. She pleaded. She said Marcus was willing to help Ethan if I backed off, if I stayed quiet, if I accepted my place. That told me everything I needed to know. Marcus didn't want to help Ethan. He wanted control. He wanted leverage. And Ethan was desperate enough to mistake manipulation for support. That afternoon, I met with a lawyer. I laid everything out: ownership documents, payment histories, years of financial support. The lawyer confirmed what I already knew. Legally, I was protected. Ethically, I had gone above and beyond. If Ethan or Marcus pushed back, the records would speak for themselves. Then the conversation turned. Marcus wasn't as untouchable as he pretended to be. Public filings showed questionable deductions, shell expenses, and aggressive accounting that danced just close enough to the edge to make regulators curious. Nothing illegal on its face, but enough smoke to justify a closer look. I didn't threaten him. I didn't warn him. I didn't need to. That evening, Marcus called me. He didn't bother hiding his anger. He accused me of sabotage, of jealousy, of trying to destroy Ethan out of spite. I told him the same thing I told everyone else. I reclaimed what was mine. Anything else happening was the result of choices he and Ethan made without me. He threatened lawsuits, teams of lawyers, endless court battles. I told him to do what he felt was necessary. The next knock at my door wasn't a lawyer, it was Ethan. He looked different, smaller, exhausted. The confidence he borrowed from Marcus was gone. He accused me again, said I had taken everything, said he was facing eviction, said Marcus was reconsidering helping him now that things were getting complicated. I told him something he wasn't ready to hear. If support disappears the moment responsibility shows up, it was never real support. He yelled. He blamed me. He said his mother chose better. He stormed out. 2 days later, the eviction notice arrived. I drove past the house once. Moving trucks filled the driveway. Ethan stood on the lawn giving instructions, shoulders slumped, reality finally pressing down on him. I didn't stop. I didn't wave. That night, he called again. His voice cracked. He asked for one more chance, one more bailout, one more exception. I told him no. I told him this was the moment that would decide who he became next. Then I hung up. Behind the scenes, Marcus's situation was unraveling. Audits don't announce themselves loudly, but rumors move fast. Clients pull back. Partners grow cautious. Silence replaces arrogance. When Marcus finally reached out again, his tone had changed. He wanted to talk, to settle, to move on quietly. I didn't respond, because by then, the lesson wasn't about money anymore. It was about ownership, responsibility, and the cost of confusing image with substance. And the final outcome was still coming. A few nights later, there was another knock at my door. This one was different, softer, hesitant. When I opened it, Ethan stood there alone. No borrowed confidence, no rehearsed anger, just exhaustion. He didn't come in right away. He looked past me at the familiar walls, the quiet stability he had once taken for granted. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. He said he hadn't slept. He said living under Marcus's roof felt cold, transactional, and conditional. Every offer came with reminders. Every favor came with strings. He said the eviction notice had finally forced him to see how fragile his situation really was. Then he said the words I hadn't expected, but needed to hear. He apologized, not just for the dinner, not just for the insult, but for years of entitlement, years of comparing, years of confusing flash with foundation. He admitted that he had used my reliability as a safety net while mocking it at the same time. I didn't interrupt him. I let the silence do its work. When he finished, I told him the truth. Apologies matter, but change matters more. I told him he could stay for one night. Not a reset, not a rescue, just a pause. The next morning, he would leave with a plan that didn't involve my money. He agreed. The next day, he left early for a job interview, manual labor, entry level, no shortcuts. When he came back, dirt-stained and tired, he looked more grounded than I'd seen him in years. He said he got the job. That was the start. I didn't reopen accounts. I didn't return the car. I didn't undo the consequences. I offered guidance, not guarantees, structure, not shelter. As for Marcus, his silence grew louder. Within weeks, his business troubles became public. Audits expanded. Partners distanced themselves. Invitations stopped coming. The image cracked, then collapsed. He never apologized. He didn't need to. The fallout spoke for him. My ex-wife called once more. Her tone was different this time, quieter. She said she hadn't realized how much I had carried alone, how much stability I had provided without recognition. I told her I wasn't interested in revisiting the past. I was focused on the future. Ethan moved into a small place he paid for himself. He started showing up differently, not perfect, not transformed overnight, but accountable, present, learning. We rebuilt slowly, carefully, on new terms. Respect didn't return because I demanded it. It returned because I stopped giving it away for free. And that's the truth most people never learn until it's too late. Sometimes the strongest thing a parent can do isn't to save their child, but to step back and let reality teach the lesson you've been shielding them from. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support helps more stories like this reach the people who need them. Thank you for listening.